doing? It's me, Warren Hayes, back again, once again, showing up. First time in a week, or more than a week actually, because last time I streamed was 2 Thursdays ago. So there you go. I'm back. How you doing? I hope you are having a lovely start to your week. It is Monday. It's the Monday stream. We're talking about professional wrestling here on this lovely stream with me, Mr. Warren Hayes, and his brand new boom arm. Hell yeah. Yeah, I was telling you not that long ago. I was saying that the boom arm, it's on its last legs. It's got to go. It's got to go. And I changed it. I changed it to one of these. Well, you can't really see it, and I'm not gonna fuck with the setup to show you. But it's one of these that sort of folds into itself. It's like an accordion. What do they call it? There's a term for it. Like a not invisible, but like an out of the way. Anyway, it's very I like it so far. I'm enjoying it so far. So there you go. So yeah, I'm back after just a week of taking things nice and smooth. I appreciate everyone who checked up on me on Blue Sky, sent me a little DM and whatnot, and was like, "Hey, is everything okay, Warren?" And I appreciate it. You know, you're all concerned about this old man's health. That's tremendous. Thank you. But no, it wasn't. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing serious, nothing that warranted any kind of worry. I was just, recently I've just been waking up and feeling like I was in sleep dep all the time, just like complete sleep deprivation feeling every day, struggling to get through the days, and it was like I think it was on Friday when I was talking to Kristen about it. I woke up on Friday, having gone to bed immediately after the stream on Thursday, or pretty quickly after, and then waking up the next morning like with a really big night's sleep and still feeling tired. And I told Kristen, I was like, "Look, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a break. I think I'm just gonna pop out next week and just take it nice and easy, relax, no pressure, no rush on anything, because I feel exhausted when there's really no reason to be." And folks, I got to tell you, the break did wonders. I just relaxed, watched movies and stuff, played a lot of video games, just like, and of course, professional wrestling. But I just mostly took it easy. I took it nice and easy. Did the Dynamite review, did the New Japan review, and on my time, it was like, oh, just whenever, right? So everything is fine. Everything was fine. It was just, I guess I was feeling. Kristen said, "Ooh, is this a burnout?" And then I got worried. I was like, no, it's not a burnout. It can't be a burnout. I can't be burnt out. I'm not working that hard. It's like I'm not expending myself that much, so it wasn't a big deal, and it wasn't a big deal. It was just me going, you know what, I'm just gonna take it easy, and I'm glad I did, because I'm refreshed. I feel good. I feel into it. I am back, and look, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. I don't know. I might not spend too much time on the little nonsense here so that we can start digging into stuff, because there's things here that I absolutely want to talk about that happened over the course of the week, the past week or so, that I haven't had a chance to talk about, that I do want to break them down. I do want to get into it. I mean, other than that, I don't think there's anything on the personal side of things that really requires any public attention. I don't think there's anything really out of the ordinary that, I'm trying to think. I went to see the Iron Lung movie with my son, the one that the YouTuber Markiplier made, like for, like for pennies on the dollar, and it turns out it's a huge hit. I enjoyed it enough. It was very ambitious. I think my main criticism is that to be able to sustain a solo performance, because the gimmick is that he's in a Markiplier directed, produced, and also stars in the film. And the gimmick is that he's in a submarine. He's in a solo submarine all by himself. And I think even a very seasoned actor would have had difficulty, would have found it a challenge, let's put it that way, to act a full movie all by themselves, just relying on themselves, like just being the sole human in the film, right? A la Tom Hanks with beach ball film, Spirited Away, Castaway. So yeah, and I don't think Markiplier is that kind of actor. He's not bad. Don't get me wrong. He's not terrible. It's not something where you just like you want to peel the skin off your face. Absolutely not. He's fine, but it takes a certain. I don't think he has the acting chops to pull it off. I don't think, while his performance was good, I found it was very bold of him to carry an entire film on his inexperienced shoulders like that. But not bad. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't say that it was terrible. I enjoyed it enough. I think it's a flawed movie, but for a guy who did this all himself without studio backing and whatnot, Jesus fucking Christ, it's pretty impressive. And the thing was on hydraulics too, is what I understand. That's what my son was telling me after. Like the submersible was all built on hydraulics. I'm like, holy fuck, okay, that's commitment. That's commitment right there. So it's like I can appreciate the craftsmanship behind it tremendously. I think there's a lot of good in that, but as a movie in and about itself, anyway, and it's fine. It's okay. I enjoyed myself enough. I didn't get bored. I didn't get angry. Not watching this. I'm not watching Maki Ito and Hardcore Country. What's her name? Maggie. Why can't I think of her name? This is stupid. Why can't I think of her name? Anyway, I'm not watching a terrible wrestling match that makes me upset. Mickey James, thank you, Miggy. I'm not watching Mickey James, not watching fucking Makito go one-on-one. So yeah, it's all right. I watched Him this weekend, the supernatural football film. I'm very split on it. I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. Like, this thing was getting buried, right? And I was, so I was like, okay, well, let's give it a whirl. Let's see how shitty this film is, right? I was really, really into it. And I think the performances are good. The kid, the main character, extremely likable, like some pristine casting right there. I think it just gets befuddled in its own messaging. I think I get I get the symbolism. I see what they were going for. I understood it. I'm not a dummy, but I think it just gets lost in it. And there's stuff that I try to make sense of, and I'm like, why did that happen? Why is this happening? And I felt the finish was rushed. And also, I don't understand it. I was understanding it well enough until, well, I don't want to spoil everything, but until one thing happens where I'm like, why did this guy just blow up? essentially. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, and I was expecting to really dislike it more, and I think most of the reviews have been extremely unkind to it and in an unjust manner. I don't think it's that terrible a film. And then I watched Caveat, which is an Irish horror film, which you should really start getting into Irish horror if you haven't already. It's the guy that directed Oddity, which was a tremendous scary movie from last year. And that was his first movie or second, like early in his career, and it is fucking creepy, dude. Like it's one of these movies that just generates anxiety. It was so an outlandish concept on top of that, but outlandish, but then ends up being grounded enough that you believe everything that's going on, that you're into it. You're like, yes, I am fully accepting of what's going on. You should check it out if you're into legitimately scary films, and not a horror movie in the sense that there's like a lot of gore and whatnot. I'm talking like a film that is designed to just make you feel out of sorts, nervous, anxious. That's exactly what it is. So I'd recommend that for sure. So there you go. That's we usually talk about cinema, right, when we start up the Monday stream. So but I do want to get into the wrestling as soon as possible because we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. But of course, I'm going to say hello to everyone joining tonight live in chat here right now. Like Travis, how you doing? You were the first tonight, Travis. And you are also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It is nice to see you and welcome. Piggy, nice to see you, brother. Obscurity Knox, you're also a member of the channel. Nice to see you. Welcome. Triple H's #1 Goldberg appreciator, Warren, Master and the Ruler. No, yeah, you absolutely have me confused with someone else. Maggie O'Kenna, nice to see you too and welcome. This is like Lazarus emerging from his tomb. I was only gone for a week, Jesus. It's fine. It's fine. Mr. Antox, nice to see you. Welcome as well. Finally returned to me. You legitimately take just a week off to make sure that like you don't collapse on stream, that you're able to have like a normal life. And they're like, well, look what the cat dragged in. Look who decided to show up for a shift. Christ. DJ Convoy, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the channel. All wrestling matches are terrible except the good ones. The X-ray fight scenes are great. They really are. They had me gritting my teeth a little more. Like, ugh, you don't want to think about all the fractures and whatnot. That was pretty cool, actually. I'm here to bury two things, Scream 7 and Danhausen's debut in WWE. I have not seen Scream 7 yet. I don't even know if I will. I'll see. I'll see. Apparently it did good business, but apparently it's also not great. But it's a shame. Like, it's a shame because I really like the Scream films. I really do. I like the Scream films. And the thing is, from what I understand, Matthew Lillard makes a return. And I am a huge fan of Matthew Lillard. I think he's tremendous. Such a cool guy. You know, anyone who gets Quentin Tarantino that upset has to be someone good. It has to be a good guy, if you ask me. Scream legit turned into the parody of them. Turned into the parody that they had in the in-ring universe Stab. Too meta for its own good, I guess. I know a lot of filmmakers who use subtext and they're cowards. Someone said Hereditary, but football when it comes to him. Oh no, like that's putting the bar way too high though. Hereditary is a legitimate, excellent film. The bar is way too high. My partner and I watched Star Wars: The Phantom Menace last night, and cringe-wise, I don't know if a movie has ever aged worse. I'd say, oh, I should rewatch that then, but I really don't want to. I really don't. I don't want to rewatch any of the Star Wars prequels. I really, really don't. Kristen Ashley is here. Hello. Nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. Also happens to be a member of the channel. There you go. Can your wife say that? Matthew Lillard is cool as fuck. He is the coolest fuck. Warren, you should see Autopsy of Jane Doe. It's the Nordic guy that directed Troll Hunter. Way ahead of you, brother. Autopsy of Jane Doe rules. It is tremendous. Kristen and I watched it together and it was fun as hell. Good old-fashioned ghost films. I like that a lot. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the stuff here. So that, you know, do the usual housekeeping and then we'll get to the pro wrestling talk. Look, there's not enough, there's really not all that much to plug since I haven't done much the past week. So there wasn't a Mr. Warren Hayes show last week. However, there was an AEW Dynamite review and that is available on the channel, on your favorite podcast application. Of course, that's already there. But maybe more interestingly, maybe more importantly, there is a review of New Japan Pro Wrestling's The New Beginning in USA, or New Beginning USA, that I did. And it's available right now. Yeah, I done it. It's recorded. It's available right now for members of the channel. So it's available as we speak right now. You can get all of my thoughts on the big, on the first New Japan show of the year in the United States of America. It was an eventful show. It was a show that I overall I thought was good. I think there's, I think the good on the show really does outweigh, you know, the average. I don't think there was anything. The Cliff Notes is this. I don't think there was anything outright terrible on the show. I think that I think there's some stuff that was really soft. Like I feel like there's a lot of matches that were just soft, but there's 3 matches on this card that just were excellent stuff. Just truly, truly excellent. And if you want to hear me, if you want to come full circle and understand why I am hard, is what I should say. And that, please don't clip that. If you want to, I'll even rephrase it considering what I was about to say. If you want to get the full picture as to why I am very critical of Athena, listen to this review, because then you'll understand why I'm particularly hard on her, because because we know she can be great. We know she has the stuff. And there's a lot of things. She gets in her own way. Ultimately, she gets in her own way. And she proved the complete opposite when she wrestled Shuri. So yeah, I mean, look, it's a tremendous review of a good show. You should check it out if you're a member. If you're not a member, become a member. Or wait till later this week when I reveal it, release it to the general population. So it's your choice. You can become a member of the channel and show a little support for what I do around here, or you can continue being a mooch. No, I'm kidding. You can keep being a mooch if you like. That's fine. So that's it. That's the long and short of it. And of course, we'll be back with another Dynamite review this week. Oh, and I wrote an article. I wrote an article on Voices of Wrestling. It was published today on a theme that I have been hammering home on the Dynamite review for the past few weeks, which is basically about the ranking system in AEW and how it's being used right now. Like the past 2 months of stories in the main event scene of All Elite Wrestling have all been ranking based stories, but without the rankings. So I'm like, just bring back the rank, and I expose it. It's an expose, bringing everything to light, showing that, look, everything we're doing here is all of this tale here that you're spinning. It's all around rankings, and look, it all works, and it's not inhibiting storytelling. It's not making things more difficult. And I make a direct plea to Tony Khan. Tony, bring the fucking ratings back. Read my article to get the full argument. I think anyone who reads my article is absolutely converted to my side. It's airtight. It's an airtight argument. You can't argue against it. Once you read it, you're like, this lad is completely correct. The burden of being right, folks, is very, very heavy. The crown is very, very heavy. On Athena, world-class talent, poor instincts, I think that's a very good summation of it. I agree. All right. But this guy here, world-class and tremendous instincts.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a nunchuck master.
Oh, we missed you, Jacques.
NWA,
We missed you.
Wrestling.
Hoo-yah! Good old Jacques. We missed you. I heard Jacques is a huge believer in the Darth Jar Jar conspiracy. He comes across as that. I think he'd be into that. I believe he'd believe it. All right. Thank you, Jacques. Appreciate your contributions. Come on. Just X out, motherfucker. Okay. Ooh, that's not the preferred view. This is the preferred view. No, this is the preferred view. There we go. Isn't this prettier? Here's our docket tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. This is what we're going to be talking about. Hey, Patrick, nice to see you, man. Welcome to the chat. Member of the channel on top of that. Should we start by talking about Danhausen? Should we just get this out of the way? Should we just finish? Should we just talk about it and never speak of this again? Because the thing here, the thing that we all have to keep in mind, folks, is that no one is ever talking about Danhausen again. The Danhausen discourse on social media reached Killer Cross levels of it. I was so done with it. And then his debut arrives, and then then it perks me up. Then I'm like, okay, we've got a little meat on the bone here. Now we actually have something to talk about. But I think we all realize that from this point forward, there is unless something completely unexpected happens, we are never speaking. Danhausen is never making news again, right? I think that's it, right? And he's probably going to show up on Raw tonight, or is he on SmackDown? I don't even care, quite frankly. But look, let's go to it. Let's do this. Let's do this the WarrenHayes way, just like I was raised to do. Okay, let's read a nice little article from our boy Josh Nason over there on the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Okay, the boxed mystery was no longer a mystery. This was written on Saturday, right? On February 28th, exactly. Danhausen, why do you know this stuff, Antox? Antox knows all of this dumb bullshit. I feel like my brain is already filled with enough dumb bullshit, but then there's people who like surpass me. And I'm almost jealous, quite frankly. The boxed mystery is no longer a mystery, as its contents were revealed to be Danhausen during Saturday's WWE Elimination Chamber. Raw GM Adam Pearce and SmackDown GM Nick Aldis brought the giant wooden crate out into the arena and opened it up before walking away, revealing a coffin inside. A group of females dressed as vampires then emerged, followed by the enigmatic Danhausen. He and the women then came to ringside, where he handed Michael Cole a jar of teeth. They then got into the ring before the lights went out and end the segment. Then we go, the aforementioned crate first appeared on Raw mid-February with a message on it not to open until February 28th. The 35-year-old posted a message to social media on Friday alluding to the freedom, while his profile was removed from the AEW roster page on Saturday. The move to WWE ends a multi-year run in AEW Ring of Honor that was marked by long periods of inactivity and frustration about that inactivity. Despite remaining under contract, he hasn't wrestled in AEW since December 2023 and Ring of Honor since February 2024. His contract was reportedly set to expire before being extended against his wishes. It remains unclear if he fell out of favor and why he went unused. Okay, we're not watching the video. I'm not dealing with WWE breathing down my neck. We're not watching the clip. You've all seen it by now. First and foremost, first of all, I still don't understand how anyone thought that Chris Jericho could possibly be in a box. Look at what they did here. And I'm saying, not that they would have done the same thing with Chris Jericho. They wouldn't have had him come out of a coffin and have, girls dancing around him with, Monty Burns hands. He would have never come out of a crate. He's a fucking superstar. It's Chris Jericho. You don't need this kind of gimmickry. He just has to show up. Anyone who thought that Chris Jericho was going to be in the crate, like Matthew of Botchamania said earlier today on a post, and I thought it was interesting, has their mind tied up tighter than the cherry in Twin Peaks, than the cherry stem in Twin Peaks. I blew it, Matthew. So that's one thing. Look, he debuted. It was what it was. They went all out for some reason on Danhausen. They decided to have the dancing girls. They decided to have the pyro. They decided to just have him come in, do a segment and leave. For some reason, this is the creative that they came up with for, the mid-card meme wrestler extraordinaire that is Danhausen. And I don't necessarily mean that in a derogatory fashion. Not necessarily. It's just facts, Facts don't care about your feelings. Isn't that right? He says, wearing his left-leaning t-shirt. So the idea, but okay. So Danhausen, gets this huge production, music playing, choreography. He's hitting his timings. The music has all of his little catchphrases, the cursed and very nice, very evil. And then, gives the jar to Michael Cole, and it is an extremely awkward moment. And then he gets into the ring and the lights go out and he gets booed. The reaction from the Chicago crowd, who, mind you, should probably know more who Danhausen is than, fucking Des Moines, right? He came out, he did his thing, and the Chicago crowd was not impressed. They outright booed it. And I don't know why anyone is really surprised that people reacted that way, considering how he was presented. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? This is not my thing. Yes, it is, Warren. What are you trying to say here? I don't think that this was intentional, but Danhausen was set up to fail here. Why are you treating this guy, like I said, a mid-card meme wrestler? Why are you treating this guy like a huge star, getting a bigger reveal introduction to the WWE universe than anyone else in recent memory? Powerhouse Hobbs didn't get that kind of reception, right? Didn't get the lights out and the segment, and then, you know, you can head out and out now. Like, why are we treating this guy so special when he's looking the way he looks? He's a small guy, you know, doesn't exactly have the poundage on him, right? Not exactly the type of person that you're used to seeing on World Wrestling Entertainment Television. And he comes, he does some awkward stuff. No one is quite sure what's going on because no one knows who he is. This is something that we had speculated. We talked about. I talked about it on Blue Sky. Everyone's been chatting about it. The question everyone was asking in the lead up to this is, how much will the WWE audience know? How much of the WWE audience will know who this guy is? And a lot of people's instincts, including mine, was probably not very much, because WWE fans are trained to think less of the independents, to be things that you shouldn't be necessarily paying attention to. If you want to say, oh, but he was in AEW and whatnot, he hadn't been in AEW over in easily 2 years, maybe even more. What did we say? 2023 was his last match. So like over 2 years, hasn't been on AEW television, hasn't exactly been a big star to be, regardless. This is a guy who has a very strong, very vocal online presence, because that's where his fan base always has been. Because people who go to indie shows and, you know, who were excited to see Danhausen and have a good time with the teeth and the curses and whatnot, were all people who were rather online as well, as far as their wrestling fandom goes. This is not the case with WWE fans. WWE fans will wait to be fed the information, and so on and so forth. So they had no idea who this guy was. And I think it's a very, very, I thought it was a very unfair way to debut him. I think they put a lot of pressure on the shoulders of a guy who is a bit player in wrestling. And now he has a hell of a hill to climb back up to get this audience to like him. You know how I would have debuted him? If Warren Hayes was if Warren Hayes was somehow, you know, the in charge of booking for World Wrestling Entertainment, I would have had him show up, you know, do the thing in the background where you have this weirdo walking around, you know, doing the Monty Burns hands, and you know, with his teeth and whatnot, and introduce the character. So he's just hanging around backstage. People are like, who's this weird guy? Maybe once in a while he gets a little quip in at the end of an interview segment backstage, or at the end of a segment backstage. He, you know, hey, are you very evil, very nice, or whatever the fuck he says, you know, something to that effect, where instead of doing this, which is just shoving them down our throats in an energy that is not Danhausen in the least. Well, not in the least, but the level of production that was here is not Danhausen-esque. Instead of doing that, introduce them to the audience. Do this for a month, 2 months. It doesn't matter. It's WWE. They could have stretched this out for a full 6 months. And then people starting to get excited. You know, well, when is he going to wrestle? When is he going to wrestle? And then they see him wrestle and they're like, oh. Oh. Is that all? Is this all this is? But that, anyway. But you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say here, I think I'm being very fair. I think I'm being very charitable and fair in saying that I think Danhausen in this situation, I thought he was given a raw deal. I think he was given a raw deal. I don't think this is a debut that was beneficial to him. But now the toothpaste is out of the tube. You're going to have to deal with it. And I think his journey to get himself over with the WWE audience is going to be that much more difficult now moving forward. And I don't know why they did this. I have no idea why they decided to do this huge production and treat him like a megastar. Because this was a superstar entrance, folks. They didn't even give this kind of entrance to AJ Styles when he debuted at the Royal Rumble. Hell, they couldn't even put the camera on the entrance. They kept the camera on Roman the whole time. You know. Like this, look, Cody Rhodes when he came in, he got the big entrance with the music and the graphics and and the whole big Cody Rhodes production, right? You know, Adrenaline in My Soul and all of that. He got the full Monty here. Who the fuck is Danhausen to get this, right? And I don't mean that necessarily in a disrespectful way. It's more like give him an entrance that will give him an entrance or a presentation to the company that will be in league with his role or the role that he had. If Danhausen was this megastar, if this was like Shinsuke Nakamura when he debuted on Maine, right? And they start, with the violins. Well, they didn't have the violinist when he debuted, but his theme song was awesome, and he do the lighting effects, and Shinsuke's very theatrical, so all of that, you're like, oh, fucking hell. But then you're like, yeah, this is Shinsuke Nakamura. It's one of the fucking top wrestlers on the planet. It's like one of the New Japan cornerstones. Yes, like this guy, you boost him. This is fucking Danhausen. He sells merch, I'm told. He's a t-shirt guy. Who cares? What is this? That's ultimately my issue. That I think they set him up to fail. I'm not saying that it's intentional. I'm just saying that they could have done this in a much different, simpler way. I don't know. WWE likes the comedy. They like the ha-has. They like doing like silly things. If all else fails, they'll send him to AAA, and he will get over in AAA. He will work. He will work out fine in AAA. WWE AAA, excuse me. Don't call it NXT Mexico. Now, as it pertains to the fact that he had been sidelined all this time and, was wanting to work, and yes, there was injury time, but he wasn't injured all this time and whatnot. Look, I don't know what to tell you. I think Okay. it's always a debate when these types of things happen, right? And hopefully I'm consistent on this. What does that mean? Yeah, but you know, my thoughts are very simple, because I don't like people who say, well, you signed the contract, you know, tough it out type of thing. I don't like that kind of stuff, because every contract, you can negotiate an exit out of any contract. That's life, folks. A contract is not a fucking, you know, it's not fucking scripture and marble, you know, blessed by the gods that you have to fulfill lest you get stricken with leprosy or something. That's not what a contract is. Contract is it's a fucking human construct. It's a legal document that you can, that in good faith, you can exit, you can break out of. You know, otherwise, look, otherwise people who work, any type of job who has an employment contract, because, you know, there's a lot of you who probably have an employment contract. Does that mean you can't leave your job if you don't like it, if you're fed up, if you get a better offer somewhere? Does that mean you can't leave? Of course not. I have a contract at work that I re-sign every 3 years, but I have an out clause. You can always negotiate your way out, even if you don't have an out clause. A contract can be amended as long as both parties are in agreement to it. So, you know, I don't like this mentality of, oh, well, you signed the contract, you signed the contract for 3 years, do the 3 years. So many fucking things can happen in 3 years at your job that maybe on day one you were thrilled, in year one you were thrilled, but by the end of year two, you're like, man, this place fucking sucks. There's so many things that can happen. So I don't like that mentality. It's a mentality that in a nutshell, and I think for people who have never worked, that have never worked with under a contract, I think that's the kind of mentality that's just like, that's boxed in. It's like, do your time, brother. And especially when it comes to pro wrestling, where, and I can't emphasize this enough, every professional wrestler has a shelf life. Athletically, physically, they all have a shelf life. None of them want to be sitting around being wasted away, in whatever place in their career they are, at the onset of their career, in the prime of their career, in the twilight years of their career. Who cares? No one wants to be sitting around. No wrestler wants to be sitting around doing nothing because they're forced to do nothing. Because on top of that, these individuals all understand that they are companies in and about themselves. They're brands, right? Don't forget all of these contracts that AEW and WWE signed. All of these wrestlers, they're all supposed to be independent contractors. Never forget that first, but we'll see how deep we have to go into that discussion, but we know that's a whole other can of worms. The wrestler is a brand and understands that if, as a performer, as someone who has to depend on a media presence, if they can't get out there, they are ultimately hurting their bottom line, or their bottom line is getting hurt, should put it that way. And their bottom line is getting hurt, and maybe even hurts future possibilities as well for employment elsewhere if they cannot market themselves well, if they cannot turn themselves into a desired property that another company would gladly snatch up once they become available, right? So I can understand that these wrestlers sitting around doing jack shit and don't want to do that. Plus, they're all competitive. Every wrestler is competitive. These are competitors. And unless you've done sports, unless you're an athlete, I think this is something that's hard to connect with. I'm no athlete, okay, but I've been around athletes and people who are high performance minded in my past to understand the type of mentality that they have. Where it's like these are all people who detest sitting around doing nothing. All of us, people like us, we fucking slobs sitting around going, he's getting paid to stay at home to do nothing. That's a dream job. For us fucking morons, sure. but for people who have athletics, competition in their blood, it's the worst possible scenario. They don't want this. So all that being said, if Danhausen wanted out of his contract, Tony Khan should have cut bait and let him go, like he did with Ray Phoenix, like he did with Ricky Starks. Just fine, go off and shine, do whatever you need to do, right? And I really do believe that. Now, are there reasons why Tony Khan decided to where Tony Khan decided to keep him? Probably. And here's the thing, right? It is very, very probable that there are reasons why Danhausen wasn't released beforehand. Probably more than just, well, you have to sit out the rest of your contract. There is precedent in this company where Tony Khan has released people from their contract before their term came up. He has done this. So why didn't he do it with Danhausen? What's the issue with Danhausen? Danhausen, vague posting online, how frustrated he's not being able to do anything. Why isn't Tony just cutting bait? Maybe there were very good reasons. They're just not out there. We don't know, right? As a general population, we don't know. And maybe we will never know. Maybe it'll come out at some point. Maybe, it's the kind of thing, so maybe at some point the news will start circulating. But if I were to bet some money on this, I think there was something else going on. I think there was something that happened that pissed off Tony Khan to the point of saying this guy is sitting at home until his contract is done. And I am not releasing him. I'm not letting him go to WWE. And there's a reason for this. So that's where I would be putting my money if I were a betting man. I would put my money on that. I am not a betting man, and this is just for entertainment purposes only. This is not real financial advice. So that's the long and short of it. I like there was no look there. Just to complete that idea, though, there is a reason why Tony Khan held on to him, because there was no other reason to. What would have been the reason to? Lower mid-card comedy act, meme wrestler. What the fuck are you doing sitting on this guy, making sure that he doesn't go anywhere? What the fuck? You're not even producing merch anymore, like this stellar merch, right? That everyone keeps telling us. Oh, yes, the merch. He's such a great merch man. He sells so much of the merch. Remember that one year he out-merched CM Punk? The merch argument is not the catch-all. It's not the gotcha a lot of people think it is, right? It's like, oh, well, he was a big merch guy. Still wasn't on TV. Still didn't make money on TV. Still wasn't an attraction, even when he was on TV. I don't, when you have to default to, oh, well, he sold a lot of merch. You're like, okay. So what are you admitting right now? What are you admitting? I remember, and again, like no disrespect, and you know, I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but Bray Wyatt, when he was doing when he came back and started doing the Firefly Funhouse at first, right, and the Fiend stuff and all of that, that's what everyone would say. Oh, Bray, he's a big merch. He pushes all sorts of merch. He sells all sorts of merch. But then you're like, yeah, but Bray's a very average pro wrestler. He just doesn't make it happen in the ring. It's all theatrics. It's, you know, it's goofiness. It's you know, the building turning red. It's people getting set on fire. It's, you know, it's the Fiend. It's all of that stuff, right? So, you know, it's like, I don't think it's the gotcha a lot of people think it is, because I think by doing the merch argument, you're sort of proving a point. It's like, oh, is this all? And how much merch can he be pushing? How much merch is he making? Sorry, let me say that again. How much money is he making through his merch to justify the salary you're paying him? And that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. I don't think there's a wrestler on planet Earth today who justifies their salary based only on the amount of merchandise they sell. I think it can be part of it, but this is not a Hulkamania type of situation. This is not an Austin 316 type of situation. He might sell a lot of merch, but is it enough to say, yes, let's continue paying this guy this much every year? Because don't forget, he was likely getting his salary plus residuals from all the merchandise. You know what I mean? The merch argument is full of holes, and it's not the surprise gotcha that people seem to think it is. Ultimately, and this is, again, like I said, this is probably going to be the last time we ever talk about Danhausen, or at least for a long fucking time, because now he's on WWE and he's going to be relegated to the lower card, where he's going to do stupid shit and he's going to run into Chelsea Green and they're going to do goofy skits together, and they're going to set up a match with him against Mr. Iguana, and Mr. Iguana is going to carry him to a good match because Mr. Iguana is a better wrestler a much better wrestler than Danhausen. And he's just going to flounder and he's going to do things, and we are never going to speak of him until something surprising happens, until his contract situation changes. Those are the only times we're going to be talking about Danhausen. On this podcast, I'm convinced. I would be utterly, utterly shocked to the gills if we sit around here and like every week there's more Danhausen to talk about. So there you go. I don't know what else there is to add. I feel like I've touched on pretty much every possible Danhausen topic as it stands right now. If we do the too long didn't read situation here, this is how it goes. Danhausen was done dirty with his entrance. It was way above his pay grade. So that's why he got booed. He's going to be, a lower mid-card comedy act, and he should have been released from his contract in AEW. Tony Khan should have just let him go. But there was a reason why there was a reason why Tony decided to bench him, and I don't know what that is. I did see people say, "Oh, well, it's because of his ties to CM Punk, because he's CM Punk's buddy." I'm like, and to be clear, that is an incomprehensible argument, completely incomprehensible, because there's all sorts of existing examples of former CM Punk former members of the punk camp who did not receive this same type of treatment from Danhausen. FTR is an excellent example. Brody King, Ricky Starks. Well, no, I guess Ricky is more of a scratch that, but Powerhouse Hobbs, scratch Ricky Starks. It was more of he's a Cody guy. I apologize, but Powerhouse Hobbs was a Phil guy. So no, like I don't think the Phil Brooks connection had anything to do with Tony Khan having Danhausen sit. Trust me. This is what my gut tells me, folks. There was something else. We don't know exactly what it is. There's something else. There's a reason why Tony ultimately punished him for that. I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you what it is. We can all just speculate at this point. All right. Hey, Jay Luthi, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Member of the MrWarrenHayes Show channel. On top of that, it is good to see you. And nice to see you, JD. Weirdo goth dude doing a terrible Conan impression. Well, I'm doing my best here. Hey-oh. I'm such a card. Did he cut bait with Ray Phoenix? Didn't he complain for months and posted a dumb picture of him in a straitjacket acting like he was trapped? Yes. And despite that, he still cut bait because Ray Phoenix was still under contract because of injury time. And it is very likely that Conan was in his ear saying, post all this shit, make him look bad, do this, and whatnot. So yes, then Tony eventually was like, okay, you want to go, go. That's fine. Because I think he had him till Ray Phoenix debuted in June, July, something like that. And I think he was under contract till September, October, something to that effect. My memory might be a little off here. When I was 9 watching WWF, I wasn't worried about Honky Tonk's merch numbers. You know who was? Honky Tonk. And that's normal. My favorite way to gauge employment out of someone, business metrics. I love going to a picture show and waiting for the box office numbers finalized before settling into my formal opinion. That's a lot of people online who do that now. It's like a movie is good if a movie is good if it's a box office hit. If it makes money, then it's a great film, right? That's typically how it goes. There's a lot of that. That's why the Marvel movies, right? The Marvel movies. Hey, DGMC, nice to see you, brother. Welcome. Welcome. You member for 69 months. Nice. 69 months. Thank you so much for all your support all this time. Danhausen works as Batmite to someone's Batman. Don't put that out into the universe. Or do because I don't watch. So it's fine. In a way, it's a credit to Danhausen that Tony Khan wanted to completely cool him off before the competition signed him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if that's the issue. If that's the issue, I guess I understand it. I guess. But I mean, there's cooling off and there's, cooling off. It's like, I absolutely buy into the fact that Tony Khan didn't like Danhausen because Tony Khan is not a fan of the comedy acts. He's not a fan of this kind of comedy act. Hey, Silver Apocalypse, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I like Danhausen. I hope he stays healthy and gets some good use in WWE. I think it will be, I think it will likely be some WWE silly stuff, but hope he does well for himself. Absolutely. No. Like, he's much better off. He's much better off here to do the things that he want to do, or at least, you know, I'm sure you've all heard the rumors that Danhausen at some point went to Tony Khan and said, look, I want to be booked as a serious wrestler, right? And then I'm like, okay, but then he goes to WWE and he does this, you know, with dancing girls doing Monty Burn hands. It's like, what are we doing? TK just signed the inspiration, explained that. TK doesn't like comedy acts. Fair. I retract my previous statement. So that's it on Danhausen. I hope it works out for him. I really do. Okay, we got to talk about this here. Because look, I didn't watch the Elimination Chamber, but we do have to chat about this. You'll see why. Randy Orton won the men's Elimination Chamber, which means that he gets the title shot for WrestleMania 42, which is the and he if my computations are correct, he is going to be wrestling for the undisputed World Heavyweight Championship, which is like the belt with the lineage, right? It's the real World Championship in WWE, which is currently held by Drew McIntyre. And it came to a shock because everyone figured it was going to be Cody, right? And Cody ended up losing and doing boo-boo face after the match, you know, and doing the whole 9 yards, being so disappointed. But he won. The Randy Orton WrestleMania main eventer, Randy Orton, is back at it. And there you go. You know, WWE Creative just about a week or two ago, we're struggling. We're getting people in the room coming up with answers. Hey, like, how could we sell tickets to WrestleMania 42 faster? And I guess one of the solutions was Randy Orton in the main event. Okay. So that's fine and dandy. The follow-up to this is immediately after the show. Immediately after the fucking the fucking Elimination Chamber, they do their little post-show stuff, right? They have the little desk with the post-show and the fans and whatnot, right? This is what happened. We're going to read this off of the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer again, okay? Nick Aldis confronted Drew McIntyre in the moments following the Elimination Chamber PLE, upset that McIntyre had interfered in order to avoid having to face Cody at WrestleMania. Now, keep in mind here, okay? Before we put one foot forward, one more foot forward, Cody Rhodes was in a match to determine the number one contender for the undisputed world championship, and challenged for it at WrestleMania. And he failed. He lost, okay? Lost. So Nick Aldis, Drew McIntyre got involved apparently. I don't know. I didn't watch it, right? And, and he got upset at Drew McIntyre. A few minutes later, Aldis stormed into the post-show panel area and announced that McIntyre would be defending the WWE Championship against Rhodes this Friday on SmackDown. Well, folks, it's time.
It's time to play the game.
Time to play the game.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We're coming after you, Paul. What kind of fucking bullshit is this? Like, I am completely baffled by this. This is the storytelling company, folks. This is the company that keeps telling us over and over again, we don't do pro wrestling, we do stories. We put together all these great stories with all these great elements and so on and so forth. The story you're telling here is that the match, the number one contendership match that you just set up at this pay-per-view, which was the whole thing, it was the whole match, it doesn't matter. Because then you can turn around and then just take a guy who lost the match and drop him back into the title picture, give him a title, not even in the title picture, give him a challenge straight off like that. Like, come the fuck on. Look, I know that I know it's unfair of me to be expecting any kind of thought and logic in WWE storylines, but this is so blatantly dumb, so blatantly absurd that you have to sit here and point it out, right? You have to. It makes no sense that this guy here, this Paul Levesque, this alleged booking genius, sat down and cracked his knuckles together, for a big 8-hour day of working on creative, and this is what he came up with. Where he's like, no, we're gonna have Cody challenge for the title on SmackDown on Friday, instead of just having him win the Elimination Chamber. That's ridiculous. That is poorly planned out, reactionary booking to get to a destination, by using a situation that you didn't even want certain people in that situation. Look, to be very clear, because I understand right now that was a little tortuous as far as sentences and understanding goes. What do you think this means regarding how WWE feels about Drew McIntyre at this point? They have no faith in the guy. They strap the title on him as a shock moment, as just a little surprise thing. But now it is very apparent they did not want him in any main event at WrestleMania. They didn't want him even close to that. Of course, he's going to be losing the title at SmackDown this Friday to Cody, because you're not having, you can't have Cody Rhodes not be in a WrestleMania main event. It just doesn't make sense. But everyone sort of figured, it's going to be Cody and Drew. But no, but it's not going to be that. They had to jettison Drew as quickly as possible out of this. He was just a swerve, bro. He was just a distraction on the way, something to keep people on their toes. But the plan was always this here. And the plan somehow involves Randy Orton in a main event in the year of our Lord 2026, and I don't understand it. And somehow people are excited about it, and just wait till that match happens, fellas. I don't understand. I don't see why these fans. I don't understand why these fans don't see. Hang on, let me say that again. I don't understand how these fans can't see how much of a fraud Triple H is as his job. He's bad at his job. It is crazy. The Drew McIntyre World Championship win was legitimately just a swerve, bro, because they didn't want him there in the first place. They just wanted Cody to be free for Royal Rumble to add, right? Wasn't Cody in the, no, I can't remember if Cody was in the Royal, because I didn't watch it, and it doesn't matter. Because I'm trying to remember if, look, none of it matters. They didn't want Drew there in the first place. They got Cody to sort of work for his spot, didn't win the Rumble, could possibly win the and everyone was like, oh, he's going to win the Elimination Chamber. But no, it's another swerve, bro. Because we're putting Randy Orton in the fucking main event. There's a guy who's always drawn tons of money, right? There's a sure thing right there. Just baffling stuff. Absolutely baffling. Drew was never meant to be a part of the situation, so they're just reverting back to their plan that they had all along. I don't know why they just didn't give it to Randy Orton in the first place then. Like you can feel like this is panic booking, that it was just a swerve, bro, that is just something to keep people on their toes. You can feel it. You can feel that it's not a well thought out story by just by what's happening here. The guy challenges twice, in fact, the Royal Rumble, this match here, fails both times to secure a spot to challenge for a world championship, and he's just given one. How does any of this, how can you sit here and say, yeah, that's great booking, that's so smart, good job, Papa Paul? Impossible. He's such a fraud. He's such a fucking fraud. And you know how much of a fraud he is? If you haven't figured it out yet, you know how much of a fucking fraud this guy is? What? They do the little pre-show, right? With the fans in the background. Now, what happened in the last two instances where Triple H showed up in front of the fans, clustered around the post-show area? What happened the last two times he did it? Chad, do you remember what happened the last two times he was there? Maybe even three, but easily two. Do you remember what happened? Sports fans? I do. He got booed. Triple H got fucking booed. People turned on him. They started chanting, "We want Vince." Of course, they're insane. They started chanting AEW. And only when he showed up, expressing their distaste. Now, I should have pulled up the tape from a few weeks ago from the post Royal Rumble in Riyadh, which is the last time that this happened, right? I should have pulled up the tape to play it here, where I say I wouldn't be surprised in the least if they stopped doing these press conferences in front of a live audience because Triple H can't handle being booed. I saw this thing coming because your boy Triple H didn't have the guts to go out in front of a WWE crowd out of fear of being booed again, like a pussy. Instead, he did his little segment backstage with one of the mic stands. How does it feel tonight? How does it feel tonight? And then, Danhausen, that's kind of kooky, crazy stuff, right? And that was it. This fucking guy didn't even have the guts to go out and sit at the table like he's been doing for the past couple of months because his poor little Fifi's got hurt. Because he can't take the heat. Because he's the star of the show, and everyone should love the star of the show, but they don't. They're starting to see through him. WWE fans are starting to understand that, hey, you know what? Maybe this ain't as fun as it used to be. Because ultimately what's happening is it's Triple H is now entirely left to his own devices. All of the big money-making angles, the big things that carried WWE into the TKO sale were all Vince creations. The Bloodline, adding Sami Zayn to the Bloodline, bringing in Cody Rhodes, all of that, all of this high-level shit, it was all Vince. And it thankfully carried over for a few months into Triple H's new reign, his first reign as Booker. But then when that started to peter out, when he started to find himself in a position as he is now to create his own angles and his own stories, now that everything that Vince came up with is dead, is gone, can't be used anymore, he's floundering. He doesn't know what to do. He threw his support behind Jey Uso. He said unironically to every WWE fan, this is my guy. This is the guy that we're going to push moving forward. Jey fucking Uso. And look how that turned out. The only thing that's going well for him is Gunther. But I would even argue that the Gunther angle, what they're doing with Gunther, started with Vince. We're just continuing down the same path. This guy, Paul Levesque, cannot take it. He can't handle it. He can walk out, trot out at the start of WrestleMania and are you ready? And all this bullshit. But when it comes down to the wire, he's a fucking coward. And he cannot own up to the fact that things aren't necessarily going his way. And he's upset about it. He's scared. Chicken shit. Your boy's a fraud. If you're a WWE fan, listen, read my lips. Your boy, Triple H, is a fraud. And we have seen it coming a long time ago. He's always been a fraud. He's always been a make-believe main eventer. He's a guy who was there by circumstance, by being in the position that he was in. He married into that spot. He was the only guy around when the two true top guys of the company decided to leave or had to leave. He was the only, he was plan C, brother. And then he pretended to be a top guy his entire career. Cosplaying as a top guy his entire career. And now he's cosplaying as some kind of brilliant booking mind, some high-powered executive, making money hand over fist, and he cannot handle a few fucking boos from people, from his audience, from the people who are paying tickets to see his fucking shit show. He doesn't even have the courage to go sit there and take it. That felt good. If you haven't already, I highly suggest, stop watching WWE. It's so many reasons to not watch it. There's so much better wrestling out there. There's so much better wrestling out there. And I'm not just like, oh, go watch AEW. Sure, But there's so much other stuff. Hey, Mrs. Convoy, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. You gotta add that to the shock opening then. My Triple H guy. No, I'm saving that dude. I'm saving the Triple H intro for when it's time to do what we just did here. When it's time to dress down this fraud guy. Never forget that the final image sounds of Cena retiring was of Triple H being booed. True. Very true. That is absolutely true. Hey, Kristen, thank you very much for your 68 months of membership. Aw. Yeah. Yours isn't 69 like DGMC. Aw. Aw. Oh, well. Paul Levesque has been ousted as a fraud because this is the first year. A WrestleMania didn't do a sure thing. 2023, 2024, a Bloodline and Cody. 2025, Cena's final year in WWE. 2026, nothing. Yeah, you know, the ticket sales are already telling a story. And, you know, we should all be honest about it at the same time. It's not as if WrestleMania is doing bad business. It's doing great business. It's just not doing as good as in comparison to the last couple of years. And that's on Paul. And look, what have I said multiple times here? Here's the thing that we always have to keep in mind. Triple H is expendable in this current structure, in this WWE structure. He's not tethered to the company via his wife, his father-in-law. He's an employee. He's a guy who answers to a president, who then in turn answers to another company who owns WWE, who then has shareholders on top of that everyone answers to, right? So Triple H is very expendable, and he understands this. He knows it. You know, I like to call him a dummy, you know, but when it comes to playing politics, the guy's good. The guy's smart. He knows what he's doing. When he shows up to show that, oh, the show is mine, and have his little executive producer credits at the end and tape Unreal, you know, which is basically a reality show centered around him. It's to establish the fact that him and WWE cannot be divided, that they're indissociable. One cannot exist without the other. WWE is Triple H type of thing. That's how everything has been established, right? Because he knows that he's in an ejector seat, and the only capital he has to really like defend himself in this type of situation is that, well, you're going to have fans revolt if you guys fire me because I am the product type of thing. I am the company here. I am the creative guy. But if TKO gets fed up of him, they can jettison that guy. Hit the bricks, terrorizing. And he knows this, and that's why he does these things. Yes, of course, part of it, a major part of it, is self-serving. It's his ego, sure. Absolutely. But there's also a part of it where he wants to be the biggest star in WWE. And he's going to protect his spot at all costs so that he isn't ejectable, so that he isn't disposable, just another guy on the payroll. He knows. Do we think Dwayne Johnson negotiated that he gets to be then the one to fire Paul personally? Dwayne, at that level, Dwayne is the kind of guy who he's the kind of guy who will call Paul after the news and like, oh man, brother, The Rock is really disappointed that you got fired today. The Rock did all he could to try and negotiate things your way, but there's only so much The Rock can do. I'm just one man. The board was really adamant. I'm sorry, man. Like, that's what he's going to do. Paint himself as the nice guy. Anyway. Let's move on. We've got more stuff to talk about. Slightly more interesting, too. And he'll give Paul a bottle of his tequila with a note. Yeah, exactly. Best luck. And something super generic, right? It's like, good luck. Good luck, DJ, right? That's probably how he signs. He doesn't write Dwayne. He probably like D.J. But then again, like wrestlers and all that, they probably have, like a squiggle autograph, right? So he's probably, one of these. You're just like, that's not a signature, brother. That's not a real signature. What are you doing here? There was a lot of stuff that, not a lot of stuff. There was resolution in regards to AJ Styles and his positioning, his future between WWE and AEW. All this happened while I took a break from streaming last week, of course. So, I want to wrap this up because we did talk about it on the podcast. We did talk about it on stream. So I want to be able to give closure to this, or at least as much closure as we can have as it stands right now. We'll talk about it as we go along here. But maybe for some of you like, oh, this is so old, Warren. I haven't talked about it. It's my fucking show. It's my fucking stream. I'll talk whatever the hell I want. So last week, right around, or when was it exactly? It was a little after the Monday Night Raw farewell to AJ Styles there in Atlanta, where the Undertaker came out to announce to AJ Styles that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? You got Justin Barrasso here, who wrote an article about it. I guess this was the next day. Titled AJ Styles is headed to the WWE Hall of Fame. I'm going to read this really quickly. There's a lot of things that are going to be very obvious, but there's a little something in this article here I want to point out here. But it'll give us the full context that we need. Because right up until that point, right up until the Monday Night Raw show, it was still very much up in the air as, in regards to what was AJ Styles' next steps. What AJ Styles' next steps were going to be. AJ Styles officially announced his retirement last night on Raw. So, yes, it was the next day. Unlike his last match against Gunther at the Royal Rumble, this time Styles left his gloves in the ring, symbolizing the end of his career. This was everything the farewell at the Rumble was not. Styles thanked his fan base, his family, and his peers for an unforgettable career. In an exceptional tribute, there was a video package with highlights from WWE and TNA, as well as recognition from Styles of some of Styles' opponents from long ago, like Abyss, Petey Williams, and Frankie Kazarian. Before celebrating with the roster in the ring, Styles was also able to share the moment with his wife and children. As for why now is the time to retire, Styles explained it is necessary for him to take on a new role as a full-time dad. So in his home state of Georgia, Styles announced the end of his career. That's when the lights went out and The Undertaker arrived before a boneyard rematch could be announced. Oh, Jesus Christ, Justin. Taker offered Styles a spot in this year's WWE Hall of Fame. Of course, Styles accepted. Speaking with people in WWE, there are those who believe that Styles was genuinely unaware that was going to happen, and a smaller camp who think he was tipped off that something of the sort was brewing. But make no mistake about it, Styles is honored to go into the Hall of Fame. The timing, however, does feel rushed. So this is that's the basis of it. And what Barrasso says, essentially what he's saying in this article, especially a little later on, clearly I wasn't logged in, and we're not doing the login stuff. I'm smarter than that. Essentially what he implies in his article later on is that there are people who the smaller camp that he mentioned, who believe that WWE was aware that AEW was throwing everything but the kitchen sink at AJ Styles to get him to come over to join AEW and wrestle a bit. This same small camp that also believed that who believed that he was tipped off to something of this, that the smaller camp who thinks he was tipped off that something of the sort was brewing, because then he would have been told by by whoever was involved in the negotiations, say, well, look, we're going to offer you this plus a spot in the Hall of Fame, so that you don't go to AEW type of thing, right? So that was the basis. That was the thing. So everyone was like, oh, he's going to the Hall of Fame, so he's very likely not going to head to AEW if he's about to be inducted in the Hall of Fame. By the way, just before we move on, DGMC with a very generous super chat. Thank you very much, DGMC. I appreciate it. I never got the appeal of AJ going to AEW even back in 2019. The company never needed him, and he always had a post-career spot in WWE waiting for him. Why risk it for dream matches? He's done enough. Oh, wrestlers are weird. But I think the dream matches, I think there's something there to the dream matches. And let's say you come in. Well, we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but let's say you get offered a proper part-timer schedule, right? Where it's just like, nah. You fly in, once every 2 months, you do a couple of weeks on TV and a pay-per-view, and then you go home for a couple of months. That kind of situation. I don't necessarily want AJ Styles running up and down the title picture in AEW. That's probably not what I want. What I want out of AJ Styles in AEW is AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay. That's what I want. Just to get it out of my system. The rest is ancillary. But not looking for the big AJ Styles work rate run. I want him to wrestle the guys that he inspired, essentially. Anyway, let's move on. As Justin Barrasso was putting this article out, AJ Styles went on to his buddy's podcast, The Talkin' Shop, with Machine Gunka and what's his name? Big Dog Gallows. He was there to address rumors about him going to WWE and his future in going to AEW and his future in WWE. So speaking on Talkin' Shop Live, Styles addressed the rumors of WWE possibly inducting him into the Hall of Fame to stop him from joining AEW. And here's the quote here. Let me give you something to talk about. So everybody wants to say, oh, WWE put AJ Styles in the Hall of Fame so that he couldn't go to AEW. Guys, I am retired from wrestling in the ring. Like, that's all this is. I make my own choices. I make my own decisions. I was ready. He further explained that he was on the verge of staying on the table for too long and wanted to beat the house, which is why he did, which he did by hanging up his boots, Styles, 48, stepped down from a decades-long pro wrestling career that began in 1998 and now finished in 2026. Styles noted that he will still be working with WWE in the future, shutting down rumors about his AEW jump. Here's the other quote. I am still going to be working with WWE. That's not going to change. I have these dreams of helping out young talent. If somebody is not ready once they get there, it's my job to hopefully help them get to that point where they can do it and they are confident when they step into a WWE ring. Being able to help with that is a blessing. So he flat out says, hey, guys, I'm done wrestling. I have an offer from WWE to help backstage. I'm done. And look, shortly thereafter, PW insider Mike Johnson reported that Styles and WWE came to an agreement where he will indeed have some kind of backstage role where he's going to do something backstage. He's been signed to that contract to do it. So what this feels like to me, right, is that WWE did indeed know that there was massive interest from AEW and that they turned around and they just threw everything they had to be able to keep AJ Styles with the company. Because could you imagine, just think about it for a second, could you imagine how much the WWE would have absolutely hated for a top star performer like AJ Styles, who's got legitimate buzz, that the wrestling world would be excited about the idea of him testing out free agency and maybe going somewhere else and trying something new. Could you imagine if he left and showed up in AEW during the road to WrestleMania? No one in WWE would have liked that. This is something that I have no trouble believing that they did everything in their power to avoid that from happening, to keep that from happening, I should say, to avoid doing that, to keep that from happening. Thank you for the grammar lesson there, Warren. You're very welcome. Now, listen. Wrestling retirements. Am I right, fellas? We know what retirements in wrestling are. We know what they mean. We know what it's all about, right? Terry Funk, Ric Flair, the list goes up and down, right? And he's going on a podcast and he's saying definitively, right? He's saying very, very definitively, hey, I'm not wrestling anymore. Listen, I'm done. I'm not doing it. And he goes and he gives this definitive statement that he's not wrestling anymore on his buddy's podcast, his pals, his friends. He goes on their podcast. Two guys who also just happen to be two massive fucking workers. Like two well-known workers on top of that. I don't know. I don't want to give the impression that I'm suddenly thinking that AJ Styles is that I'm not believing what he's saying. I'm not sure he's not going to wrestle again. When he walked out of the Royal Rumble and and all of that, I was like, he's done. He's done. He's done with WWE. He's going to go to AEW. I legitimately thought that was going to happen. But I really do think, like, in the meantime, WWE just wisened up. They realized what was going on. Maybe AJ went to them, and with his AEW offer in hand and said, "Hey, this is what these guys are offering me." Which I hope he did, quite frankly. I hope that's what he did. It's a very plausible scenario. And then they threw everything they could at him. They gave him everything. That's how I think it came down, and then threw in the Hall of Fame thing. Now, to be honest, okay, and I think that just because the retirement thing was announced a little haphazardly, like 1 week before the Atlanta thing, right? I thought that I think it adds credence to the theory that I have that WWE just started throwing everything at him to try and keep him, allow him to stay, right? To get him to stay, I should say. I think that's what that was. Because otherwise, you would have started promoting this a couple of weeks in advance. You would have probably wanted to get, more tickets moving. Maybe get some people from out of town to make a date for it, right? They literally announced it a week before. It's like, next week on Raw, we're saying goodbye to AJ Styles. And this was like, what, 2 weeks after the Rumble that they announced it? So it's like, this all came together a little last minute, all sort of a way to counter what AEW was offering and to give, the send-off and whatnot. But the send-off, what it ends up doing, what the send-off ends up doing, let's say AJ Styles does wrestle again. If he decides to do it again, the kind of send-off that he got makes it more difficult for him to just like go and slide into AEW and start off something new there without looking like an asshole, without looking like the heel in this circumstance. Don't you think? Because let's say he does this and maybe next year, we look, he's going to AEW for a match or two, right? What are people going to say? What are his fans going to think? What are WWE fans going to think? Oh, this fucking liar. They're going to turn on him. What a fucking liar. He's, whatever. There's a little bit of public perception. There's a bit of a little public perception war going on here that I'm sure is not lost on WWE, where they're like, well, listen, we're going to do this. And, and if AJ Styles does indeed decide to wrestle again, well, and he doesn't do it in WWE, more importantly, well, he's going to look like the jackass. He's going to look like the asshole. And that's all there is to it. Kind of thing. Yeah, he's going to come across as ungrateful. Exactly. So, is he going to wrestle again? I don't know. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm really not all that sure anymore as to whether or not he's going to wrestle again. I was a lot more confident that he was going to go that he was heading to AEW. Because holy smokes, right? They had him, we had the rumors going around, right? You had Andrew Zarian, right? On Twitter, who was, talking about, the main event and the main event situation in AEW is going to be phenomenal this year, right? And all that kind of stuff. And then you had CM Punk, who was on it, who did an interview and was asked, AJ Styles' retirement, do you really think he's done? He's like, oh, that's a private conversation that I had with AJ, and I'm not going to talk about it. There was all this stuff going around before the Royal Rumble, and everyone was very curious, or around and after the Royal Rumble, right? Before the retirement, before the retirement Raw. And, there was just a lot of stuff going around. There's probably a lot of stuff going around. A lot of talk. And I was feeling pretty good about it. Even AEW wrestlers were being vague about it, right? They're like, oh shit, there's something going down. But I am so convinced that WWE just threw so much shit at him. They just threw so much at him that he just was like, okay, I'll stay then. And I don't even think it's a question of loyalty, right? Because this is another attribute that we have bestowed upon AJ Styles as well, that he's very loyal. And I think that is truly part of his personality, because you wouldn't have stayed, no one in their right mind would have stayed that long with total nonstop action if there wasn't a sense of loyalty there. But his loyalty had a limit, right? When he left in 2013, never forget, he decided to hit the bricks because they were lowballing him. Because they were like, no, you're going to take a pay cut on your next, I don't know if it was a pay cut, but you're not going to get as big a raise. They were legitimately lowballing him. And he was like, well, fuck you guys. And then he went to New Japan, and then everything changed for him. And he became an international star. Then everything was elevated from that point on. It was the best move he's done in his career. So if WWE had lowballed him, at the very least, there is a reasonable expectation, because there is precedent, that he would have just like peaced out. It's like, okay, is this all you're going to offer me? Okay, I'm done. Thank you. I'm out of here. Because there is precedent. At the very least, there was that happened. I'm perplexed. I'm perplexed at exactly what happened, of course. That's why I always come back to WWE must have just offered him the moon and back. But then again, we don't even know what they offered. We don't know, we don't know how much money. Mike Johnson didn't talk, well, we never know the money amounts, but oftentimes we'll get the duration of a contract. And Mike Johnson didn't report anything. And that's suspicious. That's a little weird, because what is the length of the contract? Is it going to be done like on May 30th? Is it for a year? Is it for 2 years? How long are they locking him down? Is it really a long-term thing, or is it, a short-term thing that they decided to come up with to keep AJ Styles from jumping to All Elite Wrestling and gain and sort of shift some momentum away from the WrestleMania season? We honestly don't know. And I think it's a little suspicious. I think that's the thing that we sort of have to lean into here. And maybe it is a thing for a couple of months just to make sure AEW doesn't get their hands on him. And maybe after he's done, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna sit around at home. I'm gonna be with my kids. I'm gonna be a dad, just like he said. I'm gonna be a father. I'm gonna look after my kids properly. And that might be okay, right? That might be fine, because it's been talked about recently. I think a lot of people seem to have forgotten that, AJ Styles is not a guy who grew up watching wrestling and had all these aspirations to be, have a main event moment at WrestleMania. Like he wasn't one of those. This is a guy who started wrestling as an adult, got into it as an adult. It just so happened he was a natural at it. It was like, I think I'm good at this. And he decided to make a job out of it. He didn't necessarily have like this deep connection to pro wrestling, and you'll never hear AJ Styles, talk about all the tape that he watched from back in the day and so on and so forth. So that's just not him. So maybe this is all this has been about, or it's just like I will go with whoever gives me the most money for the least amount of work, which is absolutely fair at this stage of his career. If he's really intent on retiring, makes perfect sense. But I'm telling you, I can't help but think that, it probably got hairy as far as negotiations go, and he was probably able to leverage AEW and WWE against each other, and he ended up with a deal that made him happy, and good for him. Good for him. Good for him if he's going to get paid without any extraneous effort. If he's going to work with younger guys and gals coming up, and feels like he'll be able to make a difference, that's tremendous. Good for him. But look, the little nagging detail that I still can't get rid of is the fact that we don't know how long this deal is. We just don't know. Since that has not been reported, that is the thing that sort of makes me scratch my chin and go, it could be for a while, or it could be for it could be short term. We just don't know. So I guess the book is closed for now. I'm sure Tony Khan is upset that he has been unable in this circumstance to secure AJ Styles. I'm sure that eats him alive. And you should be pretty confident that whenever AJ Styles becomes a free agent once again, you can rest assured that Tony Khan is going to make another huge play to sign AJ Styles. That I think you can rest assured that's going to happen. But in the meantime, enjoy your retirement, Alan. Hope it's a good one. I've always gotten the feeling over the past decade that Styles was indeed loyal to WWE, not exactly the free spirit type like Mox, Danielson, or even Cope. Can't recall the guy ever having public frustrations or even anything particularly negative about his run while there, except basically shitting on Mania for losing its meaning recently. Yeah, that's probably the harshest thing he has said about WWE in his entire career. That being said, it was the same with him in TNA. And boy, oh boy, did he have opportunities. He would have had all the extremely justified reasons to go on shoot interviews during his TNA tenure and just lay it all out there. Now, do I think WWE might have been a bit antsy about the possibility of AJ leaving? Yes. Do I think AJ wanted to go to AEW? No. Do I think AJ did or was willing to use AEW as leverage? Hell yeah. I think he would have went. He would have gone. It is my understanding that that the offer that Tony Khan made to AJ Styles was for a very high amount, of course, but was very accommodating when it came to schedule. Very, very accommodating. Look, Tony is not throwing in the towel yet. This is one that he wants to be able to score. He wants to get AJ Styles working for him. I can tell you that much. AJ doesn't strike me as the type of guy who'd give two shits about what WWE fans think of him. I think he might give one shits. I think he does kind of care. He might not be the biggest "oh my legacy" guy out there, right? But I think it's still important for him to have a proper legacy in pro wrestling, you know? Like, he's not like Bayley right now, who is literally asking herself, you know, what will I be remembered for? What is my legacy in pro wrestling? Because I think Bayley is someone who does have thoughts about it, who is impacted about it, and is important for her to leave something behind where people will remember her fondly. But I don't think AJ is quite on that level, because I think this is a guy who was mostly motivated by money, by security, by just doing what I got to do and making as much money as I can in the process. TK should score, because no way AJ Styles' career should end with him being choked out in Saudi Arabia and having a dull Raw tribute show. Well, I mean, there's that too. I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder and whatnot. But I do agree that the career that AJ Styles had should end with a little more of a bang. I agree. Bayley falls into the same camp as AJ in terms of AEW for me. Doesn't move me at all. Just keep slumming it with Uncle Paul. I understand. I understand, but I think we all need to prepare mentally for Davina Rose in AEW. I think we all need to prepare mentally for that. Bayley is not happy right now. She's not fulfilled. She's got one of her best friends who is outliving her best fucking wrestling life, was establishing herself as one of the all-time greats. And she's over. Meanwhile, Bayley's over in WWE, barely being used and getting jobbed out. You know, Bayley right now is running seminars. She has her training facility and she's running seminars. She's like, you know, I'm going to give seminars and train the next generation of women into the business, because, like I said, she's cognizant of the legacy she wants to leave behind. I think for her it's important to leave a mark, and I think, you know, she's like, these last few years in WWE have ruined it more than anything. I haven't done anything. There's nothing going on. You know, can Bayley just restart and run Shimmer instead? Shouldn't touch Shimmer. Jesus Christ. What are we doing here? Leave that alone. Leave that alone. All right, we've got time for one more thing. I did say I want to get into a lot of stuff here tonight. A lot of WWE talk tonight, folks, but what do you want from me? AEW, be exciting. AEW is exciting. The product is very good. The promo, it's been excellent. It's been so much fun. It's just all these news items happening, like this one here, which we're going to read here from an article from Josh Nason over there on the Figure 4 Online. TKO head Mark Shapiro is very excited about the day when ESPN Unlimited is fully authenticated for subscribers of all major cable and streaming providers, giving them free access to WWE premium live events. Shapiro also spoke Monday at the annual Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference. That sounds like a blast. Where he was asked about the ESPN WWE relationship following their PLE shift last September and how it might impact both reach and popularity. He said, "It definitely impacts us." I don't know why I gave myself a little weird accent there. It does. Mark Shapiro, it's fine. "It definitely impacts us." And noted they were asked all the same questions about accessibility when WWE moved to Peacock years ago. "Moving to Peacock was a total success," he said. "We play the long game with WWE, and we're doing the same with ESPN." Are you now? I'm pretty sure ESPN isn't necessarily happy to hear about that when they were expecting an influx of new subscribers to their brand new platform launched last summer. I don't think they were interested in the long game as much as they were in short-term returns. He then put over the ESPN platform, calling it a phenomenal package if you're a sports fan. Sounds like something I'd say. And added that things will immediately get better for WWE when Comcast, YouTube, and Dish all allow their subscribers to authenticate and get the service for free. Comcast Xfinity actually launched that capability last weekend, while it might be until fall for YouTube. So why would it get better then for WWE? Why would it be better? I'm glad you asked. Shapiro explains. That is the $29.99 monthly cost without authenticating, I believe, is somewhat prohibitive, especially in today's economy and the struggles that certainly middle income and low income earners are having with affordability. They have to get those deals done. Until they do, that will affect our audience, he said, adding that they are excited about everything getting done. We'll give me a second here. We'll circle back to this. Shapiro said that for this past weekend's Elimination Chamber, they saw a significant increase in audience from last September's WrestlePalooza and are already making strides. All right. He admitted that they aren't where they were a year ago with Netflix or Peacock, but he was super encouraged by the numbers WWE President Nick Khan was sending him every hour this past weekend. Then he talks about Paramount and Warner Bros. And, the rest is kind of, it doesn't matter. This is the quote that matters here. The quote about, the $30 might be a little cost prohibitive. That's fucking rich. Coming from this guy and this company who are going around not all long ago saying, hey, Vince McMahon used to price these tickets for families, and we think there's more money to squeeze out of these rubes. That's not what they said, but that's what it meant, right? And since that time, right? Since this time, ever since they sort of established this idea that they weren't charging more for their tickets, ticket prices have been going up and pricing people out, like legitimately far out of the market, like in incomprehensible ways. So that is so for him to sit down and say, yeah, you know what, the $30 a month, that might be a little cost prohibitive. You know why he's saying that? You know why he's saying that, as opposed to anything else that they do. It's because he didn't set the price point for the ESPN subscription. He's like, you know what? I think our partners might be pricing people out here. Imagine the fucking gall. Like, let's be completely honest here. Okay? This is what you have to see in this circumstance. You read all of this, you read these quotes. The only takeaway you can have, I believe, the only possible takeaway you can have is that ESPN is currently not happy with the amount of subscribers that they're getting for their ESPN Unlimited gimmick through WWE. And probably even the viewership might be a little down. Maybe not hitting the targets that they had expected. This is the takeaway you have to that you have to glean here by talking about, listen, it's a phenomenal package if you're a sports fan, right? And things will get better once ESPN sign some agreements with Comcast, YouTube, and Dish, which are the outliers, right? Because if you recall, last summer they launched the service, the ESPN Unlimited thing, and they said, it's going to be included in your cable package if you're a subscriber, but most major American providers weren't even offering ESPN Unlimited, and they hadn't even come to an agreement with ESPN on that front. So they've been signing a few. The article says here that Comcast Infinity had settled up, but you've got YouTube and Dish who are still outliers there. So and then he turns around and he says, it would probably be a lot better for our fans if it wasn't $30, which again, he's criticizing the price for the service, a price that he didn't set, that his partners are saying. So if on one hand you're saying, more people will watch WWE once ESPN finalizes the deals with the other, cable operators, so to speak. And, it probably would be better if ESPN wasn't charging $30. These are not necessarily positive things you're saying in regards to your media partner. This does not sound good. I 100% believe that this is a little public airing of grievances here, where there's probably been meetings, calls, whatever, emails, signal messages in regards to from ESPN to WWE going, we gave you motherfuckers a whole lot of money and we're not seeing the numbers that you promised. And this is a little damage control here. This is Shapiro saying, he's not outright lying and saying our numbers are great. He's not even saying that. He's saying, look, our numbers could be better, but ESPN has to get its act together and settle up agreements with the other cable operators. And, you know, if they weren't selling at $30, then maybe people would be more inclined to subscribe if it wasn't $30 a month. Holy shit. Like, that's what he's saying here. So, folks, the takeaway you have to read out of this is that not everything is milk and cookies with WWE and ESPN these days. And I don't think this should come to a shock to anyone, because no numbers have ever been touted. No success has ever been touted in regards to the number of subscribers, the amount of hours watched, so on and so on. Nothing. I think ESPN might be having buyer's regret. And look, Shapiro says himself, he admitted they weren't there. We aren't where we were a year ago with Netflix and Peacock. That's bonkers. It's nuts. He's outright saying, yeah, you know, we could have better numbers. We could have had better numbers, but, you know, we're super encouraged. Oh, and this is another thing. But, you know, I'm super encouraged by the numbers Nick Khan was sending him every hour this past weekend. Now, having dabbled a tiny bit into the world of television and you know, through video production and live programming and whatnot, I feel rather confident in saying that if an executive, if a president, a vice president is asking you to send hour by hour viewership numbers, hour per hour viewership numbers on a Saturday night, I don't think you're necessarily confident with what's going on right now. I think you've had a stern talking to from your media partner, and now you're worried and you want to see how things are going. You want to be able to assess the situation as it's going along. Normally, like, remember the structure, right? TKO is the owner, but they don't get involved in the day-to-day operations. They just want the final. They want the numbers, and he just wants the numbers. They just want the spreadsheets, and that's all they're really interested in, right? They don't care about the day-to-day operations. They want the big picture. In this circumstance, Mark Shapiro outright said, "Yeah, the president of I'm asking Nick Khan to send me numbers every hour on how we're performing." That's not a confident president right there. That's not a confident owner. Because a confident owner would be like, that's fine, do your thing. Now he wants to be advised every hour how things are going. Oh, that's not necessarily a good thing. That means he's reacting on the spot. That means he's turning on the TV to see what's going on. He's looking at what's happening, and then he's going to ask some questions. Then he's going to see the number, and he's like, the numbers dipped here while we had this joker jumping off of the cage in the elimination chamber and completely missing a fucking elbow drop. How does that happen? I might be exaggerating, but that's still the intent. Like, if Mark Shapiro feels like he has to get hour to hour data when he should be leaving this in the hands of Nick Khan, that's Nick Khan's job. But he needs Nick Khan to report to him every hour? No, there's something here. There's a high level of uncertitude going on right now. It's not there. Things are not rosy right now. They're not rosy. They're not good. I think Shapiro feels like I don't want to say persecuted. That's not the right word, but I think Shapiro might feel like he's being challenged by ESPN, who just might not be super excited about how things are going on right now. Why would he be getting hourly numbers from Nick Khan? Makes no sense. A guy like Shapiro should be getting his monthly, his weekly report, whatever, and then go thumbing through the numbers, looking for green arrows pointing up. That's all he wants. He wants to get all of his spreadsheets and all of his graphs and everything in the green with arrows pointing up. That's all he wants to see. No, there's something going on. There's something. Mark Shapiro painted a portrait that things are not necessarily hunky-dory in this relationship between ESPN and WWE. We probably knew that already. We probably felt it. Probably saw it coming. But that's where we are right now. Very interesting talk. Very, very interesting talk. So, of course, we're going to add that to the pile. See what comes out of it. Might just be a whole nothing burger as well, but I'd put a pin in this. March 2nd, 2026. The the Morgan Stanley Technology, Media, and Telecom Conference. This is a signal. Something there. In TV, if you're successful, you usually hear crickets while execs take all the credit. And if there's something wrong, execs tend to pull up the microscope on you. Exactly. Look, not just in TV. Look, brother, I work in marketing and in public relations. When things go well, you never hear a peep. When your projects are delivering and you're getting good results, you never hear a peep. Then, well, why did this campaign didn't work out so well? I want all the numbers. I went, okay, calm down. I'll show you why it didn't work. It's because he didn't approve good creative. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. If AEW's pay-per-view buys continue, I wonder after the Paramount Plus bullshit, would ESPN say, let's pivot? Look, if you recall, when the discussion, when WWE was just in the infancy of discussing a sale, my theory was that WWE, even at the time, seeing the success that AEW was having with pay-per-views and even UFC at the time, I was like, they're going to switch back around. They're just going to pivot back. And, I even said, look, at the very least, just do it for WrestleMania. Do it for the big four pay-per-views. Well, 5 now with Money in the Bank, if you really want to stretch the definition. But, Royal Rumble, Mania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series at the very least. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if those just enter the pay-per-view model, return to the pay-per-view model. But they don't want to look. Clearly, they don't want to do that. And TKO sort of buried the pay-per-view model. Was it last year? Saying that like it was archaic and media deals were the future and whatnot, because it's guaranteed money, right? Because you've got all these sucker media corporations, conglomerates who are just like just handing out money without ever considering, are we going to make our money back? Because their plan is to just gets sold anyway. Again, back to the, get sold and then offset the debt, right? That's the strategy. Yeah, like I may be too picky to answer your question ultimately, or, not answer your question, but add to your thought. I mean, I've been on this train for a while, and WWE TKO have proved me wrong. Maybe the door is still open for that. I don't know. BJ Dixon, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, hourly is very bad. Hourly is very, very bad. It's pretty rich for WWE to allude that ESPN is grifting the viewership. Game recognizes game, I guess. Right? So there we go. We'll see how all this turns out, but this, I don't think anyone is going to cover that. Look, I'm going to tell you, this is the Warren Hayes advantage right here. Right fucking here. Who is going to cover this little bit like I did? Who's going to turn around and say, no, like this is probably a negative here. This is probably showing the world that they're, the marriage is in trouble right now. Mom and dad are sleeping in separate beds right now. Who else is going to do that? Who else is going to do that? Well, we'll find out over the next couple of days. But as it stands, I'm pretty sure I'm the first. Who else has covered it like I did? You got to hear first, folks. And it's just, yes, coincidentally, it happened to fall on a Monday, the day that I streamed. Sure. Okay. The coincidence is fine. But let me tell you, I'd be very happy to be a Mr. Warren Hayes viewer, listener, adopter, enjoyer. Hey, Carlos, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Will ESPN get out of the arrangement? Probably not. Not yet, anyway. I mean, it's way too early. It hasn't been a full year yet. It hasn't been a full year yet. I mean, and then the question is, what kind of out clauses do they have? Do they have out? What kind of protections are in place here? Can they just like cancel it? I don't know. Yeah, like Meggie said, there's assuredly a penalty. There's assuredly some kind of fiscal hit that they have to take. Do you think with Ring of Honor having a permanent home for tapings that they will get a TV deal whenever Warner Bros. And Paramount get their stuff together? Good question. Look, I'm just happy right now, and we'll cover Ring of Honor and the new setup on Thursday, folks. But here's a little mise en bouche. I'm very happy that Ring of Honor has decided to become a studio thing. I think it's beneficial. I think it's going to be good for the brand. It's going to be different, which is important. It's not going to weigh down the AEW viewer who bought tickets to go see a Dynamite. Like I've seen numerous tapings of Dynamite, of Collision, and slogging through Ring of Honor is, especially when they do it, sometimes they would do it after Dynamite, before like going into Rampage tapings, let's say. That's something that would happen. So it gets very, very heavy-handed at some point. I think there's a lot of advantages for AEW and Ring of Honor right now. Does this mean they're going to get a TV deal? I don't know. I don't know what Tony's play is. I think that here's the thing. This is what I think. Of course I don't know because I'm not Tony Khan and I'm not in his head. But I think Tony Khan I think Tony Khan would be ready to get a Ring of Honor TV deal just about anywhere. But he doesn't want to do it in a way that would upset his partners at Warner Bros. Discovery, who, as you recall, it's been officialized, have minimal ownership in AEW. Not a controlling amount, far from it, but they still have some ownership in the company. So I think if it was up to Tony, he'd have Ring of Honor on TV right now. He'd have some kind of deal, maybe on a streamer, maybe on a fast distributor like Tubi or Pluto. That's what I think. But I think he's been holding back because he doesn't want to upset Warner Bros. who are investing in AEW, and I think he wants to keep that relationship open and happy, especially now that they're going to get new. We're on our way to new ownership. Yeah, I think that's something that I think he wants to be careful about that, because he said it in the past, right? Well, he's alluded to it in the past when, especially, what was it, like 2 years ago? There really was like a vibe that where it felt like Ring of Honor was going to get television, right? And Tony kept saying over and over, I want the deal. I want to be able to sign the right deal or something to that effect. Which would always, I felt was always like, corporate speak for, which is just like masking whatever's going on, right? I want to sign the right deal. Well, that could mean anything. So it's just like a mask that he was putting on. But he wasn't not telling us the truth. He wasn't lying to us. He just wants the best deal. And maybe for him, the best deal is to be able to land Ring of Honor on a Warner Bros. Discovery network. Because also, I don't know if you remember this, but not that long ago, there was even talk of the Ring of Honor branding changing to AEW Ring of Honor. You remember this? And that could have been an easy answer, let's say, to Warner Bros., who are like, look, you're already producing AEW programming for us. Why would we go get this other wrestling promotion that you own? It doesn't make sense because we already have AEW. So maybe Tony's logic was, well, if we make Ring of Honor a sub-brand of AEW and we call it AEW Ring of Honor, then, maybe that'll help make the connection a little more. Maybe then the partners at Warner Brothers will be a little more open to this idea, right? Where it's like, well, look, you can have the Ring of Honor show and we'll change the branding to slap on AEW, so it'll be an extension of AEW. Might still be the plan, but I haven't heard about that rebranding in a bit. I think it was pretty strategic for Ring of Honor to debut a few days after the WBD deal shit the bed. Yeah, but yeah. Here's the other thing, though, is that, like, I understand what you're saying, Meggie, that it was kind of like a reaction, I guess. It's like, oh, well, then we'll look, This is what we're able to do here. But this was planned. And this had been planned for a long time. You know, planning a venue and, you know, the production that goes around it and whatnot, and setting up in a permanent spot as well. Like this, I think it's coincidental. I think it's coincidental. I don't, you seem to, what you're saying is, oh, well, this was strategic. This was a reaction to that. But for wrestling, because that would have meant, this is what this probably would have meant, pulling everyone off the road regarding Ring of Honor, right? Maybe even not honoring some dates that they had set up for some Ring of Honor specific stuff. And these things get planned out a long time ahead of time too. Logistically, I don't think like within 3 to 4 days of the announcement, or a week at most, you can flip everything around without eating massive penalties and all of that, right? I think it's a happy coincidence. Don't get me wrong. You know, I think it's a happy coincidence, but I don't think that this was a reaction from Tony Khan in regards to the Netflix deal falling through. If that makes sense. Well, no matter what they knew, no matter what, he knew they were going to have new owners. I think this was started in motion when the Netflix deal started. That I can buy more. Sure. It's probably been a while that they've been working at it. That I believe. That I can get into. And it's good for them. Good for, let's get some proper studio wrestling. Like, I am actually more interested in watching an episode of Ring of Honor now than I have been in a really fucking long time. Did you see what money Warner Bros. Got from Netflix for getting out of the deal? I did not see the amount. No. I'm assuming it's preposterously high. I thought they had a 5-year out. Whom? A 5-year out? WWE with, I think the 5-year out is with Netflix, right? It's WWE and Netflix because they have like a 10-year deal or something completely preposterous. And then at 5 years, I think it's Netflix can decide to press the eject button. If I'm not mistaken. With ESPN, I'm not sure. I don't remember. One more piece of Danhausen stuff for the road for you, Warren. Oh, thank you, Antox. His main thing he did on the show. Oh, that's right, tonight. That's right. He was on. The main thing he did on Raw tonight, he cursed Dominic since he's defending the IC title against Penta. So if Dom loses, yeah, oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, that's the feud everyone wanted. Dom Mysterio versus Danhausen. That's the one everyone wanted. All right, folks. I'm locking the door. I'm putting the key in the lock and turning the lock, and I'm walking away. For now, I'll be back Thursday. We're back into it. Felt good tonight. Was happy. I was happy to be back doing it. Feels good. Hope you all enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for showing up. Appreciate it tremendously. So Wednesday, Mr. Warren Hayes show. And Thursday, the Dynamite review, and as well the stream in the evening. Currently, there is the New Japan, New Beginning USA review that is available right now for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It's available right now in early access for members. So if you want to get on that, you know what to do. Hit the join button, become a member of the channel, and it's all yours, baby. So I'll be back Thursday with another live stream. Hope you're into it. I'm into it. Thank you very much, everyone, for showing up, and hope you have a good week. We'll finish it up together. That's the wrong one. This is the See, and I even timed my wink and it failed out, so it's terrible.